Why here, and why am I participating in a group of people who put together this manifesto? Well, many of you here know me, and I've been working with UN Habitat for over 25 years. I recently retired about 2 years ago. And I can say that for 25 years, I devoted my career to mainstreaming the urban agenda. It was, for 20 of those 25 years, very much an uphill battle. People would simply talk about all forms of development, but they would not, or they would refuse the notion that sustainable development has a spatial dimension. And that spatial dimension is more and more dominated by the objective and subjective dimensions of the city. But what has changed in the last 5 years is a tremendous awareness worldwide on behalf of all stakeholders, be they elected politicians, decision makers, parliamentarians, business people, of the importance of cities. But there is one gigantic piece of homework that remains to be done, and that is how do we make the city not just one amongst other issues that need to be discussed for sustainable development of our planet and our societies, but the central issue. And I think we are on the verge of achieving that. We have seen the first steps taken in Rio, but the question is it enough? And the reason why I am here today promoting this manifesto is because it isn't enough. We have to have a global urban agenda that firmly places the city at the center of the social, economic, environmental debate, at the center of the debate on governance, at the center of the application of all the promises that technology can bring to us in the future. So even though I spent 25 years of my life working on this, I am willing to devote still quite a bit of my time and my energy in my second life to promoting this manifesto. And perhaps to equally important aspect is that this manifesto is a first step, a very important first step, but after this we need to come up with a concrete urban agenda that will provide the necessary guidance, the necessary inspiration for people, as we heard from the previous panel, for people and communities to be able to take charge of their own destiny and to become city changers. Thank you very much.
I'm here because you're here. I'm here because at one time I was a youth. At one time I worked for a local authority. I'm a member of civil society. I'm an academic. I was a member of a labor union. My husband's in the private sector. I am a professional, and I am a woman. You all fit these categories, one of you, and many of you in these categories. And I'm here because I believe in what you believe. I believe that cities are positive places. I believe that cities are engines of growth. I believe cities are centers of opportunity. And I believe cities are havens for knowledge production. And I believe that we're here because we know this is true. We know that there are best practices that we can share about how cities work. We know that many of you have created good policies that make cities work well, and we want to share those. And finally, we want to measure how well we do as we govern and create our cities. And we know that the battle for a sustainable future is going to be won, not lost, won in cities. That's why I'm here.
We believe very passionately in sustainability by design, in making improvements in the quality of life, and we believe that we have a fundamental position, role to play in really driving that agenda, in the advice that we give our clients, the solutions that we bring forward, and indeed the impact that we have on the communities in which we live and work within. I think one of the most exciting things for me in the manifesto, and one of the areas I really wanted to highlight is, as we heard earlier, that actually urbanisation can be a really positive force. That's often hard to believe when what we see around us is often poverty, pollution, inequality, and as I say, that can make that a very difficult message. But if we look back in history, cities are where communities of people come together, share ideas, exchange knowledge, and really drive innovation. And I think the statistics, as we heard earlier, demonstrate that there is absolutely an economic benefit in urbanisation. Now, our job is to harness that. Our job is to make sure that in driving that positive growth, we don't fall into some of the historic traps, and we do ensure that growth is equitable, that commercial gains stay as far as possible within the communities and the ecosystems and where they've been created, and equally that consumption, probably one of the biggest challenges that we face, is managed to a level that's sustainable. And I believe the manifesto sets out a very clear agenda for that. I think that what's really exciting is the manifesto is very clear and shares our belief that neither the private sector nor the public sector have a monopoly on the good ideas here, and both need to come together to solve this challenge. And we're very excited about playing our role in helping to set the agenda, set the manifesto, and play our part in its development.
I think I'd better speak Spanish. The first thing is that after having heard the mayor of Naples and so on, I think it's really very impressive. And in my role as Secretary General for the cities and local governments, we actually also in our last meetings approved a manifesto with the cities for 2030. And the thing that was bothering us mostly is the who and the how. It seems to us that contributions of local governments is the basic building block of the sustainable future. We're not saying that all mayors and all cities have to operate on the same wavelength and do exactly the same things. No. It depends also on other levels of government and the civil society and so on. But it's clear that local governments are not NGOs. We are governments, and we have public responsibilities. And it's pretty clear when you look at the participation of the mayors. Some of you were talking about consumption. When the mayor of Naples said that he's worked on this policy for being able to hear the sea. That's look, Italy is full of these unproductive contributions of investments, the art and culture and being able to hear the sea. These are motors of producing a happier life. It's not a question of consumer goods. It's seeing cities as a system of productive operations, consumption, and unproductive operations. Something that the people participate in that is not necessarily an investment in material goods. The outlooks, the hope for the cities has to incorporate all of these concepts. So I think that we do have to cooperate, we do have to work together, and the key element in all of this is that the UN Habitat is working in this direction, and of course our own countries have to help too. All of our home countries have city policies, have state policies on on these issues, and they have a strategy. But our strategy, in order for it to be really effective, it has to involve the citizens, and there has to be citizen input. and civil society, and the companies and businesses and the organizations all have to help us. It's not easy. And obviously, there are issues of distribution of the wealth, redistribution of wealth. I don't like seeing this only in terms of employment and productivity, but because we have too high a rate of unemployment. That's too much exclusion, and you can't redistribute in that in the old way by contribution to productivity. It won't work that way. We have to find a new system.
I believe that the process of writing the manifesto allows the actors to get to know each other and to develop not just common goals, but synergies. The manifesto itself gives us all a stronger position from which to act during the Habitat 3 process. So, Nick, it is a good first step. For parliamentarians, the following key ideas included in the manifesto are particularly relevant. Empowerment of cities and communities to plan for and effectively manage challenges and change. Complete life, local economies. Participatory planning and decision making. Parliamentarians are representatives of the people and as such carry a special responsibility. They are also granted special powers. Parliamentarians can be city changers. They can also encourage people to become city changers, and they can support people who already are city changers. On the one hand, parliamentarians pass legislations, which is in itself the most essential form of implementation of the goals of the Habitat Agenda. This is reflected in our slogan, "Good laws for a better habitat." On the other hand, parliamentarians control the budget of their country and are thus able to ensure that the necessary financial resources to achieve the objectives of the agenda are available. In the same way, they decide which projects receive financial priorities. Ladies and gentlemen, the parliamentarians and Habitat are convinced that the people who are elected locally know best what is good for their city. It is normally the officials of the municipalities and the mayors of cities who are closest to the citizens. We therefore want municipalities and cities to be governed by democratically elected local representatives in order for local representatives to become powerful city changers. Local planning, sovereignty, but also a strong local financial autonomy are required. Parliamentarians have powerful instruments which they can promote changes, to which proposed they are used is a matter of political will. I humbly ask all parliamentarians present to use their powers, help others to become city changers. Thank you very much for your attention.
And the Habitat Professionals Charter of 2010 states that the role of human settlements professionals is to deliver a sustainable and equitable future. And our vision is to carry out this role based on the World Urban Campaign, and in particular to deal with the following 4 principles: social, economic and environmental harmony, pro-poor and inclusivity, heritage, culture and sense of place, the impacts of climate change and disasters. This has required changing practice and rapid action on the part of HPF members and their constituents, and including increasing partnerships and resources for innovative solutions and new approaches to urban development and management, often being catalysts for change whilst working with communities and governments to ensure that the community owns the projects or the project and feels comfortable with the outcomes.
Because the city is for people, all people, and this must not be forgotten. Sometimes we forget that the city's for people, and I'm sorry, I want to emphasise that. And our charter is complementary to the Manifesto for Cities and its proposed global urban agenda. We want to be city changers, and as our motto says, the Habitat Professionals Forum is for sustainable cities. And we want to work with UN Habitat through the World Urban Campaign and the Manifesto to contribute significantly by the actual demonstration of projects to Habitat 3 in 2016. Thank you very much.